Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Hi, and welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I'm the Executive Director of the National Street Food Vendors Association, which is a nonprofit dedicated to education, advocacy, and uplifting all food vendors. Today, I'm going to be talking about a law that was just passed in Oklahoma that's referred to as the Food Truck Freedom Act. And we're going to talk about what it means to you as a food truck owner. Before we get into that, I want to remind you guys I'm going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada this year. In July 15th and 16th, I'm going to be a part of the Food Truck Owners Expo. I'll be giving 2 classes. I'll be kicking off the campfire sessions. I will be a part of the National Street Food Vendors Association booth, where you guys can come and sit down and talk to us, find out all about the association, ask any questions that you have, and just hang out and have a really good time with us in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you would like to attend, you need to go to FTOexpo.com, place your order for the tickets today, and when you do, put in the code FTTG15 for a 15% discount. So now let's talk about the Oklahoma Food Truck Freedom Act and what it means for you as a food truck owner. Sounds pretty neat, doesn't it? Food truck freedom. Politicians have a really good grasp on the English language. That's why they give so many speeches and they get elected and absolutely do nothing once they're elected. So they give the new law a really cool name. And you think, oh my God, they're out for the little guy. They're going to protect us. But then you dive into the details of the bill and it's all written in legalese. And then you find out that, well, it's not as cool as it sounds. So let's talk about it. So what are the big wins? What are the things that we actually get out of this, especially if you live in Oklahoma? One of the biggest headaches that food truck owners have is having to have multiple food licenses going from city to city, county to county. In many places, they could have 7, 8, 9, 10 licenses just to be able to vend in a small area because each little city has to have their hand in your pocket. And so they say, well, you have to have a food license from our town. And then you look at the rules and the regulations, and the food license is exactly like every other license in the state. So basically, it's just a way for them to tax you without calling it a tax. So only having one statewide license sounds pretty cool. They also created rules on where you can operate, and they included private property. They also included rules on what the local governments can and can't do as far as limiting your food truck. So for example, they can't say we can only have 10 food trucks in the city. Nope, can't do that. They can't require you to have a GPS so that they know where you are. They can't require you to go through a fingerprinting process. They can't force you to keep moving. Some cities say you can only be parked for 30 minutes and you gotta move. Some cities say that you can't even stop unless there's somebody there waving you down for food. So they eliminated all that nonsense. They also limited inspections to twice a year unless there's a real problem. Take the win where you can. Now, what should you watch out for? No law is perfect. Food Truck Freedom Act sounds perfect, but there's a lot of what ifs and restrictions still within that freedom. For example, the law says that local authorities have 5 days to recognize your license. So it's not like you can just get a state license and drive somewhere and set up and start vending. You have to still notify the city or the county and say, hey, I'm going to be vending, and they have 5 days to recognize your state license. Here's the kicker. We all know how petty local government can be. There can be delays or there can be overly strict interpretations that could stall that license recognition. So if you're thinking, oh, there's a big event coming up tomorrow and I can drive there and do it, most likely you're not going to be able to, because they won't have recognized your license. And if let's say it's 10 days away, so that is within that 5-day time frame it's within the 5-day time frame they have to recognize your license, they could come up with something that says, oh, we need more information. We need more something. Get back with us. And they wait until the 5th day right before closing. So now you've lost that day. So now within a few days of the event and still don't have a license. And whatever they ask for could take you too much time. So if you're going to be vending somewhere that you've never vended before, you want to apply, get approved, and then let them know as soon as you can, hey, I'm going to be in your town. What do I need to do so that you can recognize my license? Make it hard on them to not recognize you. Public parks and events that are operated by the city or county can still be tough. because they hold the jurisdiction over those. So even though your license may apply, they don't necessarily have to let you in. They can recognize the license, but you still have to go through whatever hoops they have to be a part of that event or to be able to park on the public property. Now here's the one that I don't like at all, and this is the one that I'm sure is going to create the most problem. Local authorities can restrict loud music, okay, that's not a big deal, or equipment noise, and require that if you're going to park on a public street, that there is a meter for that parking permit. Okay, so they're going to get their money one way or another. You want to vend in our town? No problem. We recognize your license. But anywhere you park on a public street, it's going to cost you $100 a day. Or they can say, no, your generator's too loud. Our noise ordinances in this city are less than 70, and you're above 70. Any open frame generator is going to be above 70. So they can say, nope, you're too loud. Hit the road, Jack. Get out of our town. Not a thing you can do about it. You've got a recognized license, but they've interfered with your ability to sell because they think you're a public nuisance. Now, the rule is also written vaguely enough that any nuisance can prevent you from vending. So what does that mean? Okay, it's not just noise. The law says you can't cause a nuisance, but they don't define what a nuisance is. So the city could say, you know what? It's a nuisance if 5 people gather without a permit. So you got your food truck and you have 5 people in line. They could say, nope, got to have a permit to have 5 people in line. Has nothing to do with you selling food. What it has to do with is the number of people gathered around your business. You've created a nuisance as defined by that city. Now you're thinking, no one's ever going to do that. Well, let me tell you what else they could do. And I've seen this one happen. They could say that the smell of your food is a nuisance. You drop fries and you get that little hiss and sparkle and crack, and then your hood system pulls up that aroma, throws it out into the open atmosphere, and somebody complains. Oh my God, that food stinks. That's a nuisance. They could say, you can't do that. There was a fast food restaurant in one small town, somewhere in the Midwest. It may have been Oklahoma, I'm not sure. But they had a piece of property that was adjacent to an apartment complex and a subdivision. And the homeowners that were directly across the fence complained first about the noise from their drive-through speaker. So they had to turn the volume way down, which made the drive-through pretty much ineffective. Then they complained about the smell that their hood system was throwing out. It's just cooking food, but the neighbors complained about it. And they complained constantly about it. You don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, especially being mobile, because they'll just say, you need to leave, or we'll have you towed and impound your vehicle. It was harder on the restaurant to leave because obviously they're brick and mortar, they can't move, but they had a lengthy legal battle, which cost them money. There was no clear winner in that. So don't think that the Food Truck Freedom Act makes it all easy. Politicians slide in loopholes all the time. Now, how to make this law work for you, that's the important part. You got to be proactive. Get your state license and submit it to the local authorities as soon as possible so that you're able to vend where you want to vend. Document everything. Keep copies of every permit, every license, and every communication with those local officials. So if you've got that state license and there's something you want to vend coming up in September, you start sending the information in today and document it. I sent my license application for blah, blah, blah event on June 1st, 2025. And then document when they respond to it. You got to know the rules. Learn the noise restrictions. You do not want to be surprised with, hey, your generator's too loud, shut down now. You got to know the parking rules. Are they going to be charging you to park on public streets? You got to understand the event permit processes for your goal events that you want to attend. You got to build good relationships. Friendly professional rapport with local officials are going to smooth out those issues and delays, or at least keep you on the right side of the law if you have to sue somebody. Use the appeals processes. If you feel like you're facing unfair suspensions or penalties, the law always provides a way to fight back. You just got to understand what it is, because I can guarantee you those local officials are not going to tell you. Plan your private property gigs smartly. One of the rules that they set up is you can vend in a residential area, which sounds awesome until you read the rest of the rule, and it says 12 times a year. And you have to have permission from the residents. So if a subdivision invites you in, that's awesome. You've been invited. You have their permission. But you can only do it effectively once a month or 12 times a year. So if you find one subdivision that really, really loves your food, you still can't vend there very frequently. So there are some restrictions. You got to understand those, because you don't want to be surprised on that 13th day you're in a subdivision and the police show up and say, nope, you got to go. Just understand that any of these laws, and there's been one in Alabama that died in Senate, the Senate committee. There's one in Texas that just passed as well. So you got to understand these laws sound awesome, but there's always loopholes and caveats and issues within the laws. So certainly celebrate, because they're at least trying to lift some restrictions, but you got to be participating in that local government. You got to be a part of the community as far as you got to be a part of that local legal community so that you know what's coming down the pike. And you can help draft the interpretations of those laws. Just because it's a law doesn't mean it's going to be interpreted the way that we read it, especially when you start to involve small, petty politicians. And just remember, the local government still has tools to regulate you. You got to stay informed. Use this law to shield you and use it as a playbook so that you can confidently expand your business and serve more guests. But still, you got to have your ear to the ground so you can understand what's going on, and you don't get that surprise visit from somebody that's got a tow truck saying, you got to go. Thank you guys so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding everything that we do helpful, please consider subscribing. If you love what we do, show some support. There's a link in the description to make that happen. Until next time, you guys have a profitable day.